Oh, now isn't that a thing of beauty? Yeah. Welcome back to Pixel Perfect Season 2. This is episode 15, and as you can see between episodes, I've got a tremendous amount of work done. Yeah, and we're over here because we got today's project to talk about, but I just can't help to look at this. This is like, I might put a bench here. This spot is just, you know what? Let's do it. Unfortunately, we can't actually sit on the benches, but you know that's fine. That's fine. Let's grab one of these. There we go. We'll mark that as our spot. Today we're going to be a little all over the place. You see, we need to go look at the hub. I didn't want to build this on camera. I did want to, but I didn't because we have spent enough time working on infrastructure projects lately, and I wanted to get kind of moving forward. Now, there are like 3 episodes worth of things to be done related to infrastructure, but again, I don't want every episode to be infrastructure. I want to make stuff for you, and I want to do some building, and you know, it is a factory game, so I want to get back to building production. But that had to be done. And we're going to go over there real soon, and we're going to go take a look at it and do a little tour. Because, I mean, look at it. Look, oh man, framed by the trees. Yeah, the remaining trees. We won't talk about that intro. But first, let's talk about just briefly what today's project is going to be. It's still going to be a show don't tell, right? We're going to try to cut down on talking too much about what we're doing before we just actually do it. But this space is going to be our next project. And we needed to know not where we could build, but where we couldn't build. And that's what this is all about. So one of the big problems that we discussed when we talked about building our warehouse and our hub up here in the Pink Forest, if we look at the map, is elevation. So if you remember back when we talked about moving up here and building our hub and our warehouse up here, we acknowledged that the biggest problem was going to be getting trains all the way up to this elevation and back down. And we overcame that challenge getting down to the grasslands. We have a line right here. You can tell where the steel beam train is going right now. It's going up a nice long bridge. And that was kind of important that we found a stretch of real estate that had a long span from the cliffside to the terrain that we were going down to, so that we had time to bring the rail all the way down. And that's something that's very challenging to do when you can only go down by 4 meters at a time, because you can't have any steeper for a railroad track. And that's also going to be a challenge when we're talking about going up north. In fact, north is going to be even more challenging, and I knew this going into it, but you know, I'm up for the challenge. And I've been looking at the map and I've been thinking about it, and I always knew that we were going to need to be up in this area because the Northern Spire is where we're going to do our next big project, is our next production, which will of course be oil. But this is on, you know, sea level, and sea level lines up with this right here, this little canyon, and then this right here is a sheer cliff. Now, if you were with us in season 1, or if you've played this game, you know that this is quite a drop. And I say season 1 because this is where our home was in season 1. Our hub and everything was here. Our warehouse was packed in right over here, and we had a little bit of train rail that went over and came down. And we will probably kind of mimic that space because it was a pretty decent space to make some high elevation. But that is nowhere near where we want to be for today, because we need to get down here. We want to do it on the shortest route we can. And if we look over here, well, what we need is a long span with no terrain. And this little inlet or outlet, depending on what direction the water is flowing, is perfect for that. So, as you can see, it's not by chance that we are aligned straight up with that. And that's what this is about. Now, we're not going to build all that today, but we needed to know where that was before we could start on today's project, because we're going to use this space. And what's the one thing that we still need to do related to moving our hub? Well, the hub goes along with one other thing, and it would be that guy right there. That's right, the space elevator needs to be moved. Now, we have actually already moved the hub. The building is not completely done, but it's close enough. And we'll talk about what's left to be done. So let's run over here and whoop. Now, the purpose of that is I wanted to see where we could line up to meld with the tracks. So in a little bit after we do our little tour, we're going to do a little turn here and then probably another turn and then get lined up with that. It'll be a little bit challenging, but not really. We've got a system in place for accomplishing that. So let's run over here real quick. Like you can see, all of the stations are in place. There are some holes I've left because I discovered along the way that we have bauxite up here. I have not done any scanning whatsoever of the, things that are up here. So, I know that there's not a whole lot up here. The only thing I really expected to find was uranium, but there are a couple of bauxite nodes that I have spotted. Let's focus on this first. Look here goes the product. All right, the hub. Beautiful, isn't it? Came out so nice. And the white and the red worked out real well, obviously within the pink. That was kind of what inspired it. I wanted it to work with the color scheme, but not blend entirely with it, which is why it isn't actually pink. But it works out great. Depending on where we are in the area, or we get a haze, a little pink haze in some places. Lower elevations tend to be all right. And we've introduced a new mod. See the little green line going up there? So this is a mod that I found that allows us to do some lighting tricks, and this is pretty cool. And you run it just like a beam. See, just like that. It's ridiculously expensive on materials. See, look, a little bit over that top there, you can see 600 and it's 819. Like I went up a little bit and went up by 30. So yeah, we went through a whole lot of copper wire doing this, but fortunately we are producing plenty of it. But let's go inside. First of all, I love this. This came out absolutely perfectly. I've run around this quite a bit and I've stood around in it. I don't know about you. There's something about air conditioning. I know that a lot of my viewers are in Europe. We've talked about this with some people on the Discord and some of our community members about, it seems weird to me that you guys don't have AC in your homes. Some people don't. But when I come inside here, this is exactly what I wanted the feel of, because I've come into places like this, large scale things like convention centers, and this is exactly the feel I was going for. Right out here, it's hot, the sun's out. We know we're at high elevation, so the air is probably a little thin. And we step inside, and this already feels cool. You got the windows that are kind of protecting you from the environment. You got plenty of lights, beautiful. I just imagine there's AC going here. We have positive pressure, so the air probably is easier to breathe in here. I feel comfortable in this zone, and that was the idea even when I did with the red carpet flooring. This is kind of what I had in mind. But let's go inside. You can see we decided to go ahead and go with the red, or the black. Sorry, mine somewhere else. The black walls, and so the interior is not done yet. I wanted to leave it open so that you can see the scale of all of this. There are some trees I haven't cut down because I think I'm going to try to work them in. We'll probably take out the floor, maybe put a thing around them. It's so pretty just seeing, the majestic tree up in here. I don't know if it's going to survive or not. We will figure that out later. But all of the things are in place. All of the warehouse is up and running. I know that it looked like it was ready as of the end of last episode, but it actually wasn't. Double ride down here. What we needed to do was a lot of conveyoring that we hadn't gotten done. In fact, this is perfect right here. You can see the steel beams. Because when we finished this last time, it was a warehouse, but there was no overflow control. And so eventually it was going to back up, and that would be kind of a problem. But now we've put in this whole scheme here. Bring it up. They all come in, and they all meet in a nice line of smart splitters, and all the smart splitters have overflow control. Obviously, it go up, goes over, merges with one little sushi line, and they all go to the end where they have a dedicated sink for every segment. And we needed to sink this into the ground because it was poking through the top. But it gives a cool opportunity. We got some glass flooring going down there. Unfortunately, it's very reflective, so it's hard to see. But, you know, we know it's there. But let's take a look up a bit. Let's run over here. See, we have new elevators. The corner ones right now do not go any higher up than just the second floor. They probably will go up further once we're done with adding the extra floors. But let's go up here. Let's go to the second manufacturing floor. This will give you an idea for what the plan is for this building. Now, we don't have specific manufacturing in mind, but we do have a structure in place to allow us to do manufacturing in the interior. And we should get there soon. Oh, I clicked on the wrong one. All right, let's go back down. I don't want to be looking forward. It's going to reveal stuff. Go ahead. Good. Nope. Okay, let's be safe. All right, so the way that the manufacturing floors are going to work is that we have a 5-high space of wall space. So we can 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it hits a floor. And then we have 2, and so this will be a perfect example. So this would be a manufacturing floor. And below it, 2 wall heights below, is a false floor. And that false floor can be used for not only conveying between machines, but conveying around the warehouse. Because there's going to be times where we need materials that maybe are over there and some over there, and we're going to be able to bring them together to be able to do some manufacturing. And with 5 high per manufacturing floor, that's plenty of height for manufacturers, and it's a real good height for lighting to span out kind of in its own little localized area. So that's what this is going to be for. Also, if we look at the way we have our storages spaced out, there is some dead space. Now, again, we haven't covered all this up yet, but this is going to work as a very convenient area that if we need to have some of these materials come up here, we can pull them over into this and it'll just act as like a tube that will go up, and it will hide the conveyors lifting up and down, and it'll be nice and clean, and they can go into those false floors, and they can wrap all the way around, and everything will just be nice and clean and work out nice and beautifully. So this is all designed with little false walls and false floors in order to accommodate the ability to make a nice clean building without having too many challenges with routing our conveyors to get everything that we decide that we want to get done. So, next feature is the rooftop garden. Now, I've put walls on the edges of the elevator. I know it's normally glass, but I wanted it to feel like we were actually in an elevator shaft. So here we are at the rooftop garden. This, oh man, this came out great. Check this out. You can just run around, we can come up here, you know, like employees on break or whatever. You can come out here and walk around and, you know, admire the plants, and, you know, if they want to sit here and relax on lunch break or whatever, there's, you know, benches out here they can sit on, and there's a nice, you know, safety fencing. And I love these fences. These are new. They're new as of early access. I think they're new as of 1.1. Probably not new to you if you've been playing, but remember, we stopped playing at the end of early access back in the end of Pixel Perfect Season 1. So I unlocked these, and they are absolutely perfect. I love them. Each side is unique. I did not carbon copy, you know, the areas, so the pathing is unique between all of them. You know, some of them have other little cubbies where you can sit and enjoy. The corners are all identical because it worked out beautifully that way. But everything else is unique, and you can come over here if you want to be in the shade a little bit more. And just, I love this. I love this. You can sit out here and relax and just enjoy the elevation if if you're accustomed to breathing thin air, because we are pretty high up. But yeah, I like it. I'm very happy with the way this came out. And this floor, this will probably still be manufacturing. I don't know if it is, it'll be the last floor that we do it on. It can be some kind of observation deck, or yeah, I don't know. And the reason why I hesitate to say that is because we do have an observation deck above us. But this probably won't be manufactured. We'll see, we'll see. We do have a glass thing going down. Now again, we have the problem with the high reflectiveness, unfortunately, of these. But you can see, don't fall off the edge, that goes all the way down. And I thought it'd be kind of cool to be able to look down. But it's just too reflective. You know, maybe I can look, see if there's a mod out there that would reduce the reflectivity of the glass floors. It would be nice. I'll let the pillar in. But otherwise, it's good stuff. This is good stuff. This is so good. And again, the striping going up. And as you can see, for the final leg of this, you can actually watch out of the elevator. Isn't this nice? Oh, I love it. I love it so much. This is just beautiful. And there we are on the observation floor. Or maybe observation lounge. You know, we'll work on it. But this is where you can come out here and just kind of in the nice air conditioning, take a look around the map, and you know, everything else that's going on, which is pretty cool. Now, the only thing that's not really done, aside from the floors on the inside, which again, I kind of left them out of place because I wanted you to see the scale of the whole thing, but is the penthouse, or the top floor. So we have the hub already up here. There will be walls. It's probably going to be all windows. It'll probably be, let's see here, you know, something, well, let's go with probably something like this. And, you know, going around it so that we'll be inside. There will need to be a hole in the roof for the shuttle to be able to leave and come back. But also, I want this to come up and then come in sharply, because I want a flat roof, at least in segments of it. We'll probably like come in and then go up some more. But I want these corners at least to have flat areas for future drones. And that'll be another way for us to get product up here and back out. It'll be easy enough to run them down to the floor, and it might be something to watch. It'll be pretty cool. But it's something that is going to be a work in progress. I don't think we're going to take care of it today. This, most importantly, it's here. You know, we no longer have to run away for it, and we don't have to go back down to the neighborhood. So, enough rambling. We need to get to work on today's project. Okay, I think it is moving day. Time to get this bad boy out of here. But real quick, before we do, ignore this. See, ignore this. This is where we're making our temporary computers. You know, we don't like to set up temporary lines like this, but we needed them for the rail signals. We could not have done our infrastructure projects without them, but we still got to set up proper manufacturing for that. So that will go away soon. But real quick, before we leave, oh, look at that. Isn't that beautiful? You know, I honestly, I didn't expect that to be so visible from over here. You know, the pink forest is so far away and it's on a high plateau. You kind of expect it to be so far set back that you wouldn't see it. So I'm pleasantly surprised to see that. And look, we can see a little train going down our rails. Nice. Oh, that looks so good, doesn't it? Ah, that is beautiful. You know, this is one of the great satisfactions in Satisfactory. Is, you know, you start off with a blank canvas. You know, those big old grasslands with nothing, and look, we have a whole big old neighborhood over there. We can look across the rooftops, and we have buildings over there, and the skyline is starting to come together. And it's very rewarding to see this. You bring life to, you know, what otherwise an empty world. But anyway, we're getting distracted. We are short on time. I know this because we talked a lot in the previous clip, And I've already edited that, and I don't want to lose any of it because it was a lot of good stuff. So I want to point out one thing real quick before we head out. Ignore, that's just going to scrap. Um, the reason this is here, if you recall, this is where we were making things for the space elevator. I mean, I guess you don't have to recall, it's pretty obvious. But the parts that we needed, or the pieces, or the prerequisites that we needed for the next space elevator part have been sitting here for several episodes. And each episode, I just didn't find the time to come over here and say, hey, we're going to make the next part and connect the conveyors. But they were already set aside just ages ago. And I point this out because I wanted to show you that we were only going to use 2 assemblers. And these 2 assemblers would have been far enough, easily enough for the, hundreds of hours that we've spent since I set these aside. Because, each given episode takes 30 to 40 hours to make. And that's time spent in the game. And yes, it's a little bit longer for me because I'm making an episode, but realistically in playing the game, things do take time. It takes time to build and to run conveyors and do some math and explore and plan things out. And so in the grand scheme, making the space elevator parts is a trivial time concern. And so having 2 of these would have been more than enough. We would have had this done ages ago. So I'm pointing out, I'll make that point relevant very soon. But let's tear this down. Space, looks like I think I got enough space. Okay. Bye-bye. We'll see you soon, I promise. All right, since we are short on time, let's do the magic of editing and transitions. Because I still have a whole lot of stuff to show you, and we have a few things that we just need to do. Especially things around the hub. There have been updates that you need to see, and we're going to need to go through this whole process of how this place is going to work. So this is, I should shut that off. Thank you. Thank you for your service. This is our space elevator manufacturing and home space. So we have that platform over there. That's going to be the space elevator. Yeah, I said we were going to use 2 assemblers before, and look what we have now. That's 32 assemblers. It's 16 per row. Yeah, this is way overkill, but it's it's kind of future proofing. And if we ever find this to be inadequate, well, that's part of why we built this here, because we can build out and out and out. So there's a lot of easy room to expand into. Why is this upper floor just a big ring? Because this is where the manufacturers will end up being. And we could have built them now, but we don't need them, and leaving them out made it real easy to stand up here and look down and show you what's going on. So we'll build this later, and then when we need it. So that's fine. But let's talk about how this is going to work. Actually, first, let's place the space elevator. Now, I love the animation of this. We don't have time to stand around and watch it. And I'm not going to do it the disservice of just high-speeding it. If you want to watch it again, then look back in our back catalog, because we showed it off when we first built it in the starting area. That is so cool. All right, keep moving, keep moving. You know what? I think we should do this. That would be better. Yeah, that's much better. Okay, now we have a single belt. Not gonna reach. Maybe not. Oh, it will. All right. I don't know why it's still there. No! Don't get distracted. Don't get distracted. Okay, so it is a Mark 1 belt going to them. You're gonna think that's a little strange. Point is that I like watching stuff move on belts, and space elevator stuff is extra special, so I just want it to be a slow delivery. All right, this is how it works. Back at the hub, we have a project train. We talked about this. I don't think we showed it. In fact, I don't think it was built yet. But we did talk about in the warehouse where we had a special container set aside in each segment for the project train. All that's hooked up now, it's ready to go. What we'll do is we will load up the project train with everything that we need for the current project. And the current project, or at least the product that we're going to make for the space elevator, is versatile framework. We need 2,500 of them. What will happen is the project train will bounce back and forth from the warehouse to the space elevator stations, and we'll just drop off the stuff until everything has been delivered. And what will happen is it will all come down and it'll merge. You can see this line goes both ways. It actually doesn't go both ways. It comes from the other side. It's a big circulatory system. It's a closed loop. The product will come out of the stations. It'll enter the closed loop. It'll pass through this very critically important storage container. We'll talk about that in a bit. It'll pass through this smart splitter, which if there are any product on it that need to go to the space elevator, will go over there. And you're probably thinking, why would there be anything on it if we're manufacturing over here? Again, closed loop. It will pass first by these constructors that will almost never get used, because if it's a constructor item, then we're already making it somewhere else. Believe me, we can end up using this. We'll talk about use cases later. But we get to the assemblers, versatile framework. We need 2,500 of these. I know I'm going a little fast. We're trying to cut our time. It takes one modular frame for 2 versatile frameworks. That's easy math. That means we need half as many modular frames as we do frameworks, so 1,250. 12 steel beams to 2 versatile frameworks means 6 steel beams per framework. We need 2,500 frameworks, so we need 15,000 steel beams. Fine, we make plenty of those, not a problem. We're going to use this first row of assemblers. We don't need 2 rows. Remember, we were going to have just 2 machines running this before. Now we have 16. That's still not the point I was making about the fact that we only needed 2. That will come in a moment. First, let's set these up. Modular frames and steel beams. Now, if we were making multiple products, say we needed something for the space elevator that takes a manufacturer, we might make some things in here and make something different in these assemblers. So that's why we have 2 rows of them. We could have both rows working on it, but again, we were going to get away with 2 assemblers. The 16 in 1 row is plenty. What's going to happen is they're going to pass all the way down here. All the materials are going to pass down here. Everything you see is a smart splitter. So we can manipulate these any way we might want to. Right now, we're going to leave them as all pass-throughs, including the end of the line. So if this belt gets overwhelmed, which it will, remember, 15,000 steel beams, even with 16 of these, holding 200 apiece. That's 16 times 200, that's 200 per stack. That's only 3,200 of our 15,000 steel beams. This belt is going to get overwhelmed. And that doesn't count the fact that we also have modular frames in the mix. Of course, they won't be on this belt, they'll be on the one below it, but everything will overflow and get back to this belt. This belt, which merges with everything, including all the outputs. So our versatile frameworks will come out and they'll come down this belt as well. They're all going to merge. They're all going to go around. And when we have manufacturers, that will actually pop up and it'll go through all the manufacturers and then come back down. We won't split the output. We are going to have one mega belt. It's going to need to wind through everything, and there's an important reason for that, which is what we're getting to. So they're going to all come around, so all the outputs are going to come back to where it all started, pass through, again, this very important storage container. And at this point, the items for the space elevator will get split off and go to the space elevator. Everything else will continue on. Now, what happens when the belt gets full? Because 15,000 steel beams is more than this belt can handle. Well, that's the point to this storage container and to these mergers. So there's 2 things, 2 system functions that are important to understand. First of all, storage containers. Containers, when they receive items, put them from front to back. But when they export items, they go from back to front. So it's last in, first out, or LIFO for you programmers out there. This is really important because as the belt fills up with steel beams, eventually it will reach capacity. However, a merger gives a 50% difference to each side, each belt coming into it based on belt speed. In this case, we have all the same belt speed, so it's going to be equal. That means When this belt is completely full, even though this right here is at max capacity, when it hits this merger, it's going to stop. And it's going to let one thing come off of this conveyor lift and enter into the ecosystem. Now, if the belt was at true full capacity, that wouldn't happen because it would have no ability to add things to it. But what's going to happen here is that when this gets stopped by one item being added, that's going to send a shock wave all the way back through the entire serpentine, all the way back to here, and it's going to cause it to hiccup when it's coming out of the storage container. That hiccup means one item gets added to the storage container as opposed to passing through it. At some point, modular frame will be the last thing added, and since the thing on the end goes out first, a modular frame will sneak through. Once a modular frame's on the belt, it's going to make its way into a machine. That machine will start functioning again, which means it will eat up a bunch of steel beams, and the belt will start to flow faster again because now it'll have room to take in steel beams. And I know you might be saying, well, that's awfully inefficient. Yes, that is going to slow things down. The other thing that's going to slow things down is having a Mark I belt on here because we're feeding it with a Mark IV. So when a bunch of space elevator parts come down this belt, they're going to stop here because they're going to only be able to go out at such a speed because they're feeding a Mark I belt. And this will stop because I don't have an overflow until everything leaves the preset exits. That's going to slow the belt down also. But you know what? We were going to do this on two assemblers before. So if we slow it down unnecessarily, we don't care. That's the reason I pointed this out at the beginning. So feel free to jump in the comments and say, well, that's silly. Any reason for you to give me a comment, I'm not going to argue with. But that's why I didn't worry about the math behind the production speed. This should be self-sustaining and it should work itself out. Now, maybe in the future, in a more advanced part, we'll oversaturate this to the point to where this container won't be enough. That's okay. I have plan B, I have plan C, and I have plan D. Believe me, I can make all this work. There's no logistical shortcoming here that I can't work around. I already have those plans in place, but for now, we're going to skimp on it. We're not going to put those other things in place unless we need them. But that's how all this works. So, rambling enough. This goes to the hub. I'm not going to show it to you because that's time, but we will end up at the other end of it. So transition now. So here we are back at the warehouse, and it's time to prepare our production train. Let's do this. Empty our inventory. Now, as I explained, I think in last episode, this storage container is the outgoing to project train storage container. And this is exactly what we have it for. We need 15,000 of these beautiful steel beams. This container holds 9,600 thanks to our container screen mod. We're just gonna take them all and stuff them all in there and forget about it. We could take the elevator down, but I'm in a hurry. And right now there isn't a floor. And remember, I mentioned that we have all kinds of industrial storage because we knew we'd need more than one double-sized storage container for some things. And this is exactly what we're talking about. We need 5,400 more of these. At 200 apiece, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 1,000. 2, 3, 4, 5,000. And we need 400 more. This is the outgoing. Store all. As you can see, it is making its way out of the structure. But we also need modular frames. So let's warp over there. 1,250. That is 1, 2, 3, 400 per row. 1,250. And donezo. That's all it takes. All right. While these are making their way to the project train, there's a couple of things I want to show you real quick, like here, the little updates. Let's ride to the penthouse. We now have a roof with a hole for the shuttle. I haven't tested it. Hopefully that will clear it. But we have these glass floors. I don't know if they're going to stay glass. They probably will, because I like the light coming down through them, whereas we have a solid roof up here. But these are reserved for future drone stations. You know, in case we need them, that's where they'll be. We got these really cool glass doors from one of the decorative mods. That's super neat. I love it. And we have ladders going up. And a nice green-white motif. I'm very pleased with this whole thing. But we're not going to dwell on this. We already kind of looked at it. One more thing to show you real quick, like before we leave. Actually, real quick before we run out here. You see this little hypertube entrance here? This is the other end of the hypertube that I showed you at the space elevator. It comes all the way up to the hub. Isn't that cool? Check it out. Look. See that? All the way up. Actually, you know what? We don't even need to take the elevator. Let's drop out. Oh, switching modes. Can I get it? Can I get it? Can I get it? Nope. I should be watching my fuel. Got it. Ha, touchdown. All right, this was the last thing I wanted to show you. Looky, looky, looky. We can see through a glass. Yes, so when I was talking about the hub before, I mentioned how nice it would be if there were a mod that would kindly remove the ridiculous amount of reflection on the glass. And you know what? I found one. It's so pretty. Look, we can still see the reflections. It's just, you know, looks like glass. We can see through it. See how far that goes all the way down. It's so cool. So that's neat. And I'm very happy. But let's head all the way to the train that's going to carry all of our goods. I'll show you real quick, like under here. See, this is the belt going to the project train. It's all merging nicely. I mean, it's a simple thing, right? It doesn't have to be all complex. We don't need the parts to be all separated. Our scheme at the space elevator will take care of that. We've already gone over how the splitters work. They all show up over here. We have 5 freight platforms. We won't need them for the space elevator. In fact, we can't even use them for the space elevator because we only have 3 platforms over there. We'll never need that many for it because even if we had 5 containers worth of stuff, we don't care, right? The train bounces back and forth until it's full. So that's fine. But you can see they're coming up in the end and then they are making their way to the front. So the front will always end up with material, even if we're not taking stuff out of the back. You know, as space gets made in these, all the items will come forward. So there's no problem with that. And since, again, we're only using 3 stations at the space elevator, I only have 3 cars on here. You know, this needs color. Let's go with this. It's now a permanent train. I don't know if it's going to be a permanent color, but if it's a permanent train, it should have some kind of color scheme to it. I'll decide if I want to keep that color scheme. The last step in the line, we're going to unload only there, is to start up the project train and let it begin its process of sending materials to the space elevator. All right. Well, while it's doing that, let me show you one more thing. I don't think I showed you. Looky, we have a little parking lot. Because, you know, we do have roadway. Easy to forget, but we do have roadway going under all this stuff. So that is connected as well. And it just pops out here. This is another mod where we have doorways with no doors in it. I thought that was more appropriate. I like that. It's very nice. It's one of the decorative mods. All right, here comes the product. Again, nothing's going to stay in the storage container. You shouldn't even see the items. So that's just, it's once everything gets full, that's when this will come into play. Ruh-roh. I forgot to copy and paste. Let me do that real quick, like. All right, everything has been assigned. Again, we're not going to bother using the other ones over there. Keep in mind when you do this kind of scheme, especially when you're talking about having exact numbers of items, eventually all the processing is going to be done, and there's going to be a bunch of stations that have lopsided amounts in them. You know, some of them will have, extra steel beams but no modular frames. Some of them will have modular frames and no steel beams. And we'll have to go through on that last pass and empty out all of the assemblers and then just consolidate them into a couple of them. So that's another reason not to bother with the other 16 on this side. It's just fewer things to deal with at the end. But you can see we have final product coming out, wrapping all the way around. Returning to the ecosystem, melding in with everything else. And popping out onto the belt. See, I like this better. The little Mark 1 belt. It's just nice to watch these products, right? These are never going to be back in the ecosystem. We're making a limited number of them. And there's also product that we don't normally see because they're special products. So it's just kind of nice to chill and watch them go. But as we chill and watch them go, I think it is time to wrap it. And we're going to try to follow ourselves with the camera as we talk. Thank you so very much for coming out. I really appreciate it. I know that, we've been a little bit hit and miss on our schedule here on getting these out. I appreciate your patience. Honestly, I've had some health issues lately, and it's made things a little difficult. And also, this took a little bit longer because I didn't want to do 3 more episodes worth of infrastructure. I wanted to not drag you guys through all the stuff that was going to be necessary to finish the hub and the warehouse and all of this. So, in the interest of keeping it interesting, I just kind of decided, let's just do all of it between episodes and do the one last major thing. This is really funny what I'm doing. I find it really silly. But I do appreciate, you still coming back and sticking with me. And we got lots to go, lots to do. This series, even though there's been some delays, is still going strong. Or there's no burnout or anything on my part. So thanks very much for coming out. Be sure to leave a like on the way out. Be sure to come back and see the next episode. We should be working, I think, probably on oil up in the north. That's the whole point of why we had to do this now, because the oil was so far away that we needed the infrastructure in order to transport it. So, finally, we're going to get to that. and I'm just excited to finally, actually start producing something again, start making some progress on the oodles and oodles of items that are backed up that we need to make. And I want them to get going now that we have a warehouse that we can start feeding. So again, thanks so very much for coming out, and catch you in the next one. If you enjoyed this, you may want to check out one of these other videos, and thank you very much for your time.